What's going on, guys? Slash ff episode 11. We haven't been here in a while. I had finals. That was
All
pretty
of us
much
had
the reason.
finals. Not me.
Specifically,
Not
I had
yet.
finals, and that's mainly the reason why. Um, a lot has happened. All the regional finals have concluded, and MSI play-ins are also concluded as of today, the Tuesday. What is the date today? It's the 7th. So
Yep.
Tuesday 7th, all the MSI things have been concluded as well, and we are fast approaching group stage on Friday. First game kicking off 5 a.m. Central Time, because Central is the only time that matters, is SKT versus G2 Gamers 2 Esports. Uh, yeah, I mean, where do you guys want to start off with this? Because obviously, the most recent games we had was the Vega versus Fongvu, but even before that, we had TL Fongvu and Flash Wolves Vega.
I think like we all expected Flash Wolves and TL to make it through.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise. I'm surprised to see how close Vietnam and Russia was, like Fondview and Vega was.
Mm-hmm.
But Fondview almost got reverse swept, but Fondview still came out victorious. I don't expect them to get out of group stage. I still think it'll be and I don't expect Flash Wolves to get out of group stage. I think
Okay.
it'd be G2 G2 TL SKT IG get out, and then I don't know from there. It depends on brackets. We'll see like win everything.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, we can go back and look through the regional strength of each team then, and since we didn't cover like any of the regional finals, we can start there, and we can go with NA first with TL. The NA finals was a reverse sweep, TL versus TSM, and my prediction going in, I actually thought it would be like a TL 3031. TSM actually came in huge. So my main reasoning going into the series was that I felt TL's players were just strictly going to be better. Impact would step up to be a rock, but the series actually proved me wrong in the sense that Broken Blade had a way better performance than anything I had pretty much expected in those scenarios. And same with the TSM bot lane. They also performed very well overall that series. But on the TL end, actually, Jensen did better than I expected as well. And it looks like in the latter half of the series, they did manage to stabilize and play what they wanted to. But overall, I will say I was very impressed with Broken Blade's performance. Acadian, he
And
did
Katie
what.
got exposed as a red side
Yeah, I
one
mean,
trick basically.
Acadian did what I thought he would do pretty much, so not much there. But yeah, I mean, out of the spring split, I think it showed that TSM actually picked up a really good top laner.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think TSM played well. TL obviously played better. I'm still worried about impact going into this MSI tournaments.
Yeah.
If you want to look at regional strength, yes, he had impressive performances on GP and Jace in like the play-in versus PvB, but that's for Zeros.
Hmm.
We're looking now at him going up against Wonder, the Shy, Khan, and it gets really scary to look at those matchups. Yes,
Yeah.
Impact is amazing at absorbing like pressure and avoiding ganks, but I don't know if he's a threat enough in draft to like threaten other top laners' champ pools.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Mhm.
I pretty much wanted to see if he could step up. I used playoffs to see if he could step up, and I don't think his performance in playoffs really showed us to be very excited for internationals this MSI.
Yeah.
In terms of mid lane, even though Jensen did well, my concern with Jensen is that historically speaking, the other mid laners present have been able to perform rather favorably. Well, with the exception of the mid laner on Flash Wolves, who ironically his name is Rather. But Rather was lended over from Griffin last year. He was the rotating mid laner with Chovy in the summer split in 2018. So I'm not going to say that Rather is necessarily better than Jensen, but I will say I don't think he's like fresh fish for Jensen to feed on either. So that's like one of those matchups where like I can see Jensen doing well in. But for the other matchups with like Caps recently outperformed Jensen in 2018 Worlds. You could argue that Fnatic was a better team, but Caps has also showed a lot more regional dominance within EU itself. Rookie famously, he also bodied Caps at Worlds. Gaining a lot of CS leads there. And then Faker, the last time Faker and Jetsi met, albeit it was a very different team environment for SKT, matchup was always also historically Faker's. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to justify for me a winning matchup mid lane for TL.
Yeah. Like for me, TL is like if you want to look at the meme, like the fourth strongest team there. And I don't think that's due to like regional strength is creating this like their fourth strongest. I just think their playstyle doesn't lend well to being strong against other teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, my biggest concern is around top lane. I think Double of Tor JJ can stand up and I think they're a better bot lane than Perks and Promise Q. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they're playing at TX's tournaments.
Yeah.
I think the biggest fear is around that top lane
Yeah.
and potentially mid lane. It depends how Jensen does against other world class mid laners.
Yeah, I also think for the jungle situation, X Smithy will do his job. I don't see X Smithy getting like heavily, destroyed in any sense of the word.
Yeah,
So I think X Smithy will do his job. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Double pops off. I think last year, despite Team Liquid's inability to escape most of the group stages and stuff, Doublelift was able to perform favorably in groups itself for the most part. So, I wouldn't pin it on him, and that was with a collapsing mid lane and collapsing support. So, yeah,
yeah,
I think they've upgraded, and definitely, TL is gonna try to prove everyone wrong, pretty much for the memes.
yeah.
What do you think, Will?
They have a very uphill battle.
What's your take, Will?
Um, yeah, I think I don't know. Every time I talk about impact, my opinion basically changes from like day to day. Sometimes I think he's gonna be like the impact of like just being able to soak stuff up and be good, but then he also shows some days that he's like really out of it. Like the first two games against TSM, he looked terrible, and then to Michael's point, I think top lane. I don't think he's gonna like int top lane, but I don't think he can threaten to take away. Like I don't think you can pick him a champion to take it away from someone else. Like if there's like a really big meta champion that starts popping up, like I don't even know who people have been playing in play-ins top super hard, but like I don't think you can pick away a lot of champs
Mm-hmm.
out of like the Shy's hands and like
Yeah.
big players like that because I don't think you can trust Impact on playing like these stronger picks.
Yeah. I think
So
that's a good statement.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move over to G2 then. So G2, I mean, everyone kind of knows at this point that it is kind of likely that Mickey X probably isn't playing. A lot of people have heard about the hand injury, and the thing is, like, they've also made a lot of statements about, like, I mean, even jokingly, Wonder was like, Mickey, you're a fucking cripple. Like, they're starting to meme it too, but there's yeah, I mean, it's obviously pretty serious, so it's likely they're gonna want to sub in Promiscu, and that definitely weakens G2's bot lane. But isolating that though, I do want to focus on the top side of G2. While I did say Caps before has been outperformed in the mid lane by by Rookie and then possibly by Faker, if it comes to it, but I can't make any definitive statements on that because we don't have any history there. Wonder, while he lost to the Shy last year at Worlds, I actually think Wonder looks like he's improved quite a bit from his performance at the end of 2018 and then the spring 2019's performance. So even though, yes, he did, lose to the Shy last time, I actually do think Wonder stands a better chance now than he did before. That being said, however, I also think the Shy has probably faced more strenuous competition in the LPL as well. So I don't know. A lot of people are putting their faith on Wonder, and I actually do want to see, if he's able to, raise the stakes this time.
I think
Yeah.
Wonder is like the Santorin of EU. I think he's like really good, but people don't really since he's been on teams with like really good people. He doesn't get like the props.
Hmm.
Really, I think he's getting garnered plenty of respect, especially from Papa Smithies.
I think this year he's
Yeah.
he's gotten a bit more respect, but I don't think past years he's been as much. And this year, even then, when people say G2, they still think of Caps Perks and Yankos over him. Like he's like the fourth thought on that team,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. But I think he's really strong.
It's hard for me to give a rating for Yankos because Yankos is playing on a team that has very aggressive,
Winning
players.
lane.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Sven Skaren, in the 2016 TSM roster where they were actually very proactive. At least that was the case, right, Michael? I didn't watch too many
Yeah.
of those games, but like, Sven really wanted to contest like invades with priority,
Yeah.
I believe, and that's. I feel like if I went back and watched that, I wouldn't be able to really judge well how strong as a player they are.
Yeah, you judge their mid jungle synergy, but not in like their ability to play the map, but not
Yeah,
like how strong he was as a jungler against the other jungler.
yeah, it's
Because
hard for me to judge.
as you say, it's really unfair to like judge Jankos just because how strong his lanes are. It's like saying how when Sven was on TSM, it's really hard to say how strong he was because Haunter was really good back then. Like you had Double Lift and Biofrost, which are another winning lane, and you had Bjergsen, who would usually win his lane. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really hard to judge how strong jungler is.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that Perks, I mean, reasonably so. Everyone has rated Perks as like probably the fourth best bot lane, and some people even rate them below Flash Wolves, which
Yeah.
makes sense because Betty has had a history of doing well at these tournaments. But one of the things though is like I think that yes, if Perks plays a traditional ADC, I think he certainly he's proven he has the mechanics to be a top tier AD carry, just even as just marksman player in EU. But he has that added edge of like having the mage pool, the mid lane pool to be able to play into it. And while I think that if he plays just traditional marksman against these ADCs in MSI, I think the other players are probably stronger. But with their flexibility in draft, and then with Perks' abilities to bring other things into the bot lane, that is going to be honestly what I think G2 will probably have to rely on if they want to catch people off guard in bot lane. Because if they
Yeah.
let TL, if they let TSM, even if they let IG just play how they want, I feel like those three teams will be very comfortable. But if they do something different, it might catch them off guard just a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see Betty get out of that league and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
he's too good of a player to be there still.
yeah, I mean that was the reason the rest of the Flash Wolves left. I mean, Sword Art was one of the best support players, and he
Like
left.
if Optic could have had him over Arrow, like that'd be
Yeah, I mean
big
Betty.
upgrade.
So yeah, Betty, Maple, Betty, Karsa. So Karsa went over to RNG. Maple and Sword Art went over to Sunning, and they just got left with Hanabi and Betty, which are decent players. All their own. They performed well internationally, but they weren't the top tier carry players from the Flash Wolves before. However, they were stable to do well, and I mean, hey, I mean, we can move to Flash Wolves now, I guess. I don't know much about the LMS region. Obviously,
Yeah,
the thing
I
was
haven't
that,
watched enough of
yeah, I
it
mean,
either.
I didn't watch any of their games. What I do know is that they were actually down in the regular season to Mad Team, I believe. And then once playoffs came around, they were able to flip a switch pretty much, and they were able to beat Mad Team in the finals. But given the history of LMS, they were always able to show up internationally, but then it seemed like in the latter half they would be figured out. It kind of like how NA does, where NA actually has pretty decent like week ones, and then they kind of get figured out. But LMS has always been able to take like wins off Korean teams. But then starting 2017, they really started faltering. We could see that all the rest of the LMS teams weren't very successful. Flash Wolves famously did very poorly in groups, but then they took the bite out of TSM's ass on the way out, and that forced
Don't
the
remind
tiebreak.
me.
But that's what I mean though. It's like they were only able to win the one game, and that one game hurt though. And then in
Yeah.
2018, they were able to do well in MSI, but then come Worlds again, they weren't able to do well. So even though they've had international success historically, I would say recently it's been more on the downtrend. And especially without their former carry players on Flash Wolves, it's really hard for me to give them a good rating without knowing very much about the region.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
It's hard because I have no historical way to judge it, and since I'm not like an amazing analyst or anything, and I haven't seen the games, I can't judge the gameplay and say, okay, this region or this team is going to perform well here. So, all right,
yeah.
SKT or IG first? Next,
Let's do IG. We'll save
IG.
the Korean team for last team.
Invictus Gaming. Oh boy. So obviously less of a dominating split than last year. Famously, IG was the 17-1 regular split team both times in summer and in spring of LPL 2018, and then in 2019. The format changed. They brought in two new teams. It was no longer Eastern Western Division. They dropped a few games to some other strong teams like FPX, TOP. I don't remember which team specifically, but I believe it was like FPX, TOP. And they were 14-4, I believe, at the end of the season. But playoffs comes around, they turn on a switch, 3-1 TOP, and then 3-0 JDG. We made a lot of upsets on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah, playoffs they like their old selves.
Yep, yeah. That seems like the consensus was people felt they were proven wrong after the playoffs for IG, and
Yeah.
I mean I would kind of agree. I don't know.
I think IG is an interesting case. Like their regular season was, as you said, not as strong as it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But their playoff run like was pretty impressive in the way they handled themselves in playoffs.
Yeah.
Um,
I would have liked to see IG play against a more control team though in playoffs, because in playoffs they played against both the teams that were relied on strong solo lane and junglers,
yeah.
in TOP and JDG. I wanted to see IG play against FPX or RNG. I wanted to see them
Yeah.
play against one of those teams that actually run a more control style.
Yeah. I mean, sadly, that's just sadly that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's just the format.
Yeah. But I think it'll be really interesting to see how IG performs. I'm curious to see how, especially against SKT. I think as IG SKT will be the most hyped matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That'll be a fun series.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my big thing is that one of the things that a lot of people have spoken about for the IG team is that last year bot lane was very exploitable. You know, they said Baolon and Jackie Love, you know, that's the weak side of the map, and Ning, oh, he's probably not as good as the two Korean players who carry ball. But then we saw in the World Finals, Ning was actually able to bring up, and the Jackie Love and Baolon were able to step up as well. During the regular season this year, Jackie Love has actually done a much better job than he did before. You know, a lot of the time last year was the flash forward thing where he would int away the games, and then finally in the World Finals, his flash forward was working. And then the regular split, now Jackie Love is actually playing much better. So I know Doublelift, he actually said today in an interview with Avali that he believes, you know, it's either TL bot lane or SKT bot lane that will be the best at MSI. But I think IG bot lane has improved a lot from last year, and they're no longer like fundamentally as weak as they were before, where they were just kind of int.
Especially against, we saw them against a lot of elite class bot lanes in LPL, like with Uzi in there, and we saw them in especially, I think FunPlus's bot lane also was underrated.
Mm.
So
yeah, there's a lot of good 80 carries in LPL, and
Yeah.
like even if the bot lane is a bit weaker mechanically, some of the 80 carries were very strong.
Yeah. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see like how well they do. Also, like speaking of like bot lanes, I wish we could see it MSI. I kind of want to see how Dala would have done. So I think Dala was actually pretty fucking good. But again, maybe we'll see them at
Rift
Worlds.
Rivals.
Yeah, when is Rift Rivals?
After third week of Summer Split, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean that's IG. I mean I don't think that it's really necessary. So I'll say this. So rookie, I think right now, we kind of have to say, given how much the team has played around rookie, versus how much the team has played around Faker, I'm willing to say rookie right now is probably the stronger mid laner. Also given recent success. Faker right now, we haven't been able to see as much recent success in terms of his own like solo lane play. Even with SKT winning this split, we could look at all 2018, and there were other teams that were stronger. Now, of course, that has a lot to do with SKT as a team, but given Rookie's recent success as a mid laner, I will say that I do think Rookie is probably stronger right now.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we can move over to the SKT then, I guess. And SKT coming in as, from what the Western fans viewed as kind of an underdog in the finals against Griffin. But scrim results, apparently behind the scenes, all the Koreans were actually thinking SKT was going to 3-0, which was the story that a lot of the Koreans were, or a lot of the Korean casters were saying like, oh shit, we made our predictions that Griffin would 3-0, but then we eventually talked to the Korean casters who were like, oh no, SKT 3-0, and it turns out, SKT were like winning every scrim, and Griffin was losing a lot toward the end, and we could see that toward the end of the season when even Kingzone was able to best Griffin.
Yeah,
Kingzone, baby.
I'm willing to say Kingzone. I'm willing to say Kingzone would have probably beaten Griffin if it was playoff finals. If they beat SKT.
I think my biggest worry that I saw with Griffin like going into like later patches is just Sword. Sword did really well. It's just that CV Max didn't understand how to play around like the new picks and new meta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
I think Lehen's also got weirdly exposed. It's
because they ran Talia Pantheon.
I have a hard time. That's the thing. I had a hard time saying exposed because. They ran Talia Pantheon, but the thing is, like, they also have a reason to run this. I'm not gonna say like, oh,
they must have had some really good scrim results with it. That must have been the only lane that they won with, because they played it in game 3 when they already lost with the game 1.
I was gonna say like there has to be a lot of scrim data that we're missing in terms of how successful this strategy was.
Yeah, but all props to SKT for playing like their heart out. I think SKT played super well in the LCK finals.
Hmm.
And the way they're playing, I think just based off eye test, I don't know how other teams can handle. Like, I think Teddy Mata is probably the best bot lane going in,
I think Teddy Mata is the best bot lane going in. Yeah.
and I'm really, really scared for like to see how. I think Clade is also miles better than a lot of the other junglers here at MSI. I think if that's the case, that means 3 out of 5 roles. Maybe you can contest that Faker is probably the best mid laner too. So that's 4 out of 5 roles. You have the best player on your team, like in that tournament. I don't think there's a way SKT can lose.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
you want to look at it
I
holistically.
I will say that I do think Klid has been a really good pickup. He likes to play very aggressively. It's good to see that Faker has done a good job like developing his synergy with Klid, but I also think Rookie and Ning like to play the same style, and again, given recent success, I kind of edge it out to Rookie and Ning, but it's really hard to say like it's a because it's more of a toss up than like a these guys are definitively better, you know.
Yeah, but
Um,
would you put Ning higher than Clid though in terms of
as
just
of now, yeah, I have to.
really?
I
Okay,
don't have enough evidence to justify Klid. I think. Um,
okay,
I also think the Shy is stronger than Khan right now. Again, this is more of a recent thing, but Khan has had a fall off, and even in the games, you know, he's had a few int moments, such as even against Sword, who was very underrated for that series. You know,
yeah,
people went into the series thinking Sword would be the weakness on Griffin, but he was actually the strongest side of the map for Griffin for a lot of those games. So Khan definitely, I think he still can be exposed, and I hope they do end up fixing that for MSI.
yeah.
I'm still super tilted. They played Talia Pantheon game 3.
I mean, like
That
at
tilted
that
me
point,
so hard when I saw that.
It also
I mean, at
tilted me
that
when
point,
you
what they
guys
do?
played it yesterday.
Yeah.
Ah, ah. So why would you play the thing that tilts you then, Will?
Because it wasn't my idea.
Mm-hmm. All
I
right,
just went
Captain
along with it.
America. Anyways, so those are the teams that we pretty much. I mean, Fangfu, of course, but we kind of said play-ins. We're not too
Yeah,
excited with
I think
Fangfu. Um,
yeah, Sanju is probably looking the weakest team.
Longbeard and Flash Wolves, both their macros look really bad in the
yeah, so
play-in.
um, we should go with. All right, so in best of one, I guess we'll start with group stage. In best of one, um, I get the whole thing when people say like in best of one like oh if you do your own thing and you play aggressively you're gonna get upsets and stuff, but I do find that kind of weird at the same time is that the idea of an upset is that you're beating a better team, right? Um,
Yeah,
I think that the more I've come to watch like a game like League that's very complex, I have a hard time distinguishing a team as like good,
kind of
bad.
went
Like,
better.
yeah, like it's hard to say like this team's power level is here and this team's power level is here. It's a very, I mean, it's a good way to analyze it if you want to do a very quick like synopsis. You know, you want to tell someone a storyline like, oh, this team's very strong, but this team's this way, or this team has this play style and this team has this play style. But
Yeah.
I think when we get into the nitty gritty of it, you know, I guess an example I could bring up is that in the 2017 meta, you remember it was Ardent Sensor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Samsung was the most like Korean team of all the Korean teams. In that narrative that is driven where it's like the Koreans love the vision control style, Samsung does that more than SKT, and they had a better bot lane than SK Telecom. They were able to perform very well. But then going into 2018, that meta slowly shifted away, and we saw Samsung very much decline. You know, in their strength, but their individual players were very strong still. It's just their play style, their coaching, how they were taught. It was not what they should have been. And
Yeah.
we even see that continue now into 2019. Even though they've picked up some newer players, it still has has driven into their like how they want to play the game fundamentally. So yeah, I do want to preface that like it is interesting the idea of like having a team like upset someone, but so it's easier to look at like team by team is pretty much what I'm saying. So when I look at like TL versus G2, you could kind of make an argument for both cases, right? Like, oh, G2 is gonna smash TL, like, oh, they have such good solo laners and they're gonna do this. But you can also look at it like in the past, we've seen Korean teams who actually might not even like they're like there's some Western players who've had like some better mechanics than Korean players. I would look at like Kuro for example. You know, Kuro is a good mid laner, but we saw Jensen extremely expose him last year. But in the years prior, in like Rocks Tigers, you know, they were a very strong team who would play around topside and stuff. They had a play style and they were able to execute it very well, even if mechanically, like their players weren't more insane. So even though Caps and Wonder are better than the TL solo laners, in my opinion, I still see a world where TL actually controls the map and plays through the bot lane well. You know, I think the argument can be made both ways, and it's really hard for me to judge until like I see some actual games.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think GC's bot lane is gonna struggle at
Yeah,
Worlds. I think if they lose, that's how they lose.
yeah. I mean, I think it's
Because they were
especially yeah.
able to expose with like kind of cheesier draft picks and just being mechanically better. I don't think they're like I didn't like their play was like their macro wasn't like that insane. I don't see how you go up against SKT who can like match you with solo laner ability and also have a bot lane that like has been playing like because Perks on 80 carry hasn't like he just doesn't look like an 80 carry kind
Mm-hmm.
of
Like he's
like the
shown to have
games he
good
pops
marksman
off
skills,
on
but
like
he's not like the top tier of marksman.
yeah
Yeah.
he's definitely probably one of the best 80 carries in EU but like
Yeah.
compared to like you just watch like you watch Deft, you watch Teddy, you watch these guys, like you can tell these guys are like veteran 80 carries who are like really strong at their role and like Perks like the games that he pops off in are the games where the whole team pops off.
So do you think because my opinion is that I think TL's bot lane is too smart to be caught off guard by like flex picks. What do you guys think of that though? I don't think they're going to be caught off guard like in a fashion where they end. I think like potentially they could lose the map and it could collapse around them, but I don't think
Yeah.
it'll be so bad that like their bot lane ends.
Again, I think that only happened in best of ones, as you said.
Yeah.
But I think if the team is good enough, they should be able to play around the like quote unquote flex pick
Mm-hmm.
or like a cheese pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean like I said, yeah, I don't see TL's bot lane like G2 flex is something really creative, but then if it doesn't turn out well, like I actually see them getting really punished for that by TL.
Yeah,
I could see
by
TL,
TL,
yeah.
by competent bot laners,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to TL versus SKT then. I have a hard time justifying TL's victory against SKT in the sense that like if they expose Khan, which I think is the weakest part of SKT, they expose him using Impact and Xmithy. Which the problem is like
They don't play around impact.
yeah, they don't play around Impact. I haven't seen Impact do very much, and in order for them to get Jensen ahead, they would have to lose them. SKT would have to lose the mid jungle duo, which has been
Yeah.
their bread and butter for early game, for controlling the map so bot lane can carry. And then for bot lane, I don't think Teddy and Mata are good enough to stomp Double Lift and Core. Nor do I think Double Lift and Core, even with Xmithy, like they'll necessarily like win everything. But I think if the game equalizes, SKT has shown like stronger moments of macro
Yeah.
that it's difficult for me to justify. I think a world still exists where potentially like Xmithy, gets priority on something and they're able to get a lot of leads bot lane and then they're able to like make some clean rotations. But with Core JJ especially, because Core JJ, I think Core JJ as an in-game leader, he's very smart. But that's more of like a 40-60, 30-70 type situation.
I think TL only wins by Xmithy really, really like influencing bot lane, or TL can show that they can play on top lane. But we haven't seen it, so it's hard to like say that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, then like, oh, cool, then we have a stronger NA team that can like show off.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I think the only way they win is win through Core JJ, smash bot lane, and then spread that influence throughout the rest of the map.
Yeah.
That's the only way
I think if TL wins, I think it's a hard snowball from someone on SKT messing up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like Jack have like as much as I love NA and I love to meme about how good NA is and how much I love Double Lift and all them. I just don't see a way that they win unless SKT has an off day or they really just mess up and they do really poorly because I don't know. I don't think TL's bot lane's good enough to just smash Teddy and Mata. I don't think.
I mean, I think it's a macro type of outplay. Like Core JJ and Xmithy and Double Lift will have to coordinate something that like they have a better rotation.
It's gonna have to be TL's like one of their best games they've ever played. Like they're gonna have to play really well to like beat them because, like you said, like I don't think like the only time I've seen Impact Xmithy actually like dominate was in the game where it was Jay Sejuani as their top jungle duo and they just got the flash off solo level, not solo.
Darshan.
I think it was Darshan.
It was
level
Darshan.
one.
But Darshan also
and then they just abused. Oh no, it wasn't that game. It was in a game earlier in the season. They just abused someone who didn't have flash constantly. They ganked him like 3 times, and then Impact was just insanely ahead. Like he couldn't throw that lead.
But I mean, I also don't see TL getting rolled over super hard just mechanically.
Yeah, I don't see them getting rolled over this year. I don't think that they. I don't think they go like. I don't think it's like MSI last year with the game where they lost to. Was it what was the the play-in
Evos.
team? Evos. When they lose to Evos like badly, like
The thing is though, like TL last year also took down games from RNG. Like they weren't
yeah.
like pushover, and that's what I mean is like
The first week was their mental boom. I think if they can keep their mental pretty strong, which they've kind of shown this year with like their like really emphasis on like mental like coaching and stuff like
right.
that. Like I think that they're a lot better. I think they come out of MSI being a lot better for Worlds. I don't see them doing amazing MSI. I expect them to get out of groups and then I think they could lose. And as long as they like learn something and then they show up for the Worlds, they'll be happy.
Yeah, that perception of TL is actually very interesting. Do you guys remember what people thought TL was going to do last year at MSI? Like, do you remember what people's expectations were? Because I didn't do a lot of like analysis or looking into this. But do you guys kind of remember what it was?
Last year's expectation was they made it out of groups and people expect since it was like a weaker MSI, people expected them to get to at least the quarters.
Okay,
Yeah, but then we had Ole.
Yeah, but then Ole's mental boom and then the
Joey.
the whole first week was just so bad for them.
Okay, but so what I mean is though, like going into last year's MSI, we had Kingzone, which I do recall Kingzone was hyped very much. I remember Kingzone was thought like, oh my god, this team's crazy. They have Longju from 2017, plus they have Peanut. No one can stop this team. Like they're insane, which is kind of funny to think about now. And then it was also RNG. It's like, wow, they're the best team fighting team. This guy's bot lane is insane. You know, they can't lose to Team Liquid because they have their solo laners do the same thing Team Liquids do, but they're more stable and their bot lane's better. Blah blah blah. So those two teams were very hyped up going into it. And then we had Fnatic, which it was like, wow, Caps is crazy. And they've like pretty much had a very similar roster to 2017, but now they also have Bwipo. So those three teams were like hyped up, and then Flash Wolves came out of nowhere because they scrimmed a lot with RNG and they learned a lot. So what I'm trying to say is like I don't remember like how much hype there was for each of these teams beforehand, because it would be interesting to cross compare like last year's TL to this year's, because I think TL this year, their team looks like a lot better on paper and in gameplay, I think. But all the other teams also look like they've improved a lot. So I don't know if it's like TL is just that much worse than the other teams, like based on like, oh, their roster is like worse, or if it's that like the other teams legitimately like they've like ascended this new level. You know what I mean? Kind of like it's hard to. I would kind of want to go back in time and look at how much hype last year's MSI had for different teams.
Yeah.
I think League of Legends as a whole has gotten a lot better.
Yeah.
And it's not so much about like teams being bad anymore. I think it's just teams being really good, and then the expectations being like back from a couple years ago where there was just bad teams, and then people expect them to win every game. Like even in LCS now, like I don't think there's like a truly awful team. Like there's no Renegades anymore. Like there's no like terrible teams anymore.
100 Thieves.
Like and I feel like MSI is kind of the same now. I feel like not like even most teams are pretty decent now. Like at least from the major regions and even from like Vietnam.
Do you guys remember Spring Split last year for NA? What the expectations were? Because like for example, I remember last year, TSM on paper was actually a really good roster. Like because that was before we saw how Sven and Mithy actually played. We assumed Sven and Mithy were like going to be crazy. 2017 for Hanser is when he actually showed some more carry performances from the 2017 spring. So going to 2018, we still thought Hanser was going to be a good performer. Yeah. And then the jungler, it was like, okay, jungler's the X factor. He's the rookie. So like on paper, TSM had a good roster.
Mikey Young.
Yeah.
Mikey Young's going to MSI this year, baby. I hope he plays the game. I'm so
I hope not.
That'll be so funny.
Anyway, so like that's what I mean is like it's funny because like we had these perceptions of like a strong team like TSM last year, whereas this year I looked at TSM's roster and I thought, wow, this roster isn't very good, and I didn't think they would do well at the beginning of the split, but at the end of the split they proved me wrong. So it's like
I think it's all about chemistry and it's all about how well you play it. Like not all about it, obviously player skills.
But I think team cohesion is more important than it's
right, because like Bang and
based off everything that
players,
TSM said was that TSM's synergy this year is so much better than it was last year.
Yeah. All right, well, so let's continue on with TL then, because the final team we haven't discussed TL facing. I mean, I'm just going to ignore I'm ignoring Flash Wolves and Fangio at this point, but IG. I actually think, oddly enough, TL might have a better chance against IG than SKT,
Really?
Well, I also think TL has a bigger chance of getting blown out of the water because I think like the way IG plays, they're gonna be very forceful and aggressive. Very
Oh,
Yeah.
so
For
like
sure.
so just a much more volatile matchup, you would
yeah,
say.
yeah, that's what I mean. It's more volatile. I don't necessarily think that the win rate is better. I just mean like, you know what I mean is like if IG starts losing and TL like capitalizes well and they pick good fights because IG always opts into fights. Like some of the things is like they opt into fights which look very bad, but then they mechanically outplay. Um, that being said, is like I'm saying like TL picks a smart fight, but then they can also be mechanically outplayed. But if that doesn't happen, right, then it's like they opt into a better fight, make some good calls and then control the map. I think that there's oddly enough like a more clear route to see TL winning this type of game. Because with the SKT one, it's hard for me to actually pinpoint like, okay, where does TL win this game? Whereas with IG, I can see like, okay, even though Jackie Love and Balon looked better this year, I still see a way of IG picking bad fight selection when they don't like have good bot priority or mid priority on roams or something along those lines. They contest like a dragon or something. That's the most common like example of when that might happen, I guess. And yeah, I mean that it's a more clear route for me to see how TL might be able to take games.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think I think you're right that IG is a much more volatile team, and that they will either win harder or lose harder compared to like other teams like SAT or G2.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think.
I think I'm
Yeah,
mischaracterizing it by saying higher chance.
yeah.
I more so mean like as like analyzing it. It's easier for me to like describe how something might happen.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, yeah. Because I was just saying, I don't think they have a higher win rate
Yeah,
against IG than other teams.
yeah. I think that's a mischaracterization. I don't think
Yeah,
I can say that.
yeah. Fair enough.
What do you
But I
think,
do agree
Will?
with you.
Uh, I don't know. I think both teams are. Like, I feel like their win rate, like their percent chance to win is sub 40. I think
Mm-hmm.
against both the teams.
Okay.
I do agree with you. I think that SKT I think is a stronger. I mean, not stronger, like a more consistent team.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's like this. It's like the FlyQuest versus TL thing, where it's like, oh,
yeah,
FlyQuest like it looks like a bit of subpar on TL type situation.
yeah. I also never want to doubt China now because I feel like the torch kind of has been passed to China. I feel like every Chinese team could like is pretty strong. At least the top like
Oh
10.
man, but see, here's the thing. People thought that in 2015. I wasn't okay. So I played League, but I didn't watch esports around that time. But I went back to watch a lot of like VODs and stuff because 2015 was the Korean Exodus. 2014 the Korean teams like won Worlds and they asked for raises pretty much. And the Samsung was like, "Fuck you guys, we don't want to give you raises." They're like, "Okay, China's calling. They want to give us money." And then all the Samsung players left. Dade, Pawn, Deft, everyone was gone. They went to China. And 2015, everyone thought the Chinese teams would be crazy. And they ended up sucking. Now, of course, that was Juggernaut patch in 2015.
But this isn't Korean Chinese. This is pure blood Chinese gamers.
No, because you had OGD, you had Imp on that team.
Oh, okay. Well, outside of
Oh,
You
you had a lot
OGD
of Korean players on the 20. EDG
Yeah.
was Pawn and Deft. That was the 20. EDG was Pawn. They beat SKT at MSI in 2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of Korean players there, but it's just yeah, that's what I mean. Is like obviously there was very weird context behind that 2015 Worlds because of Juggernaut patch. That was like a very crazy like pros had like no time to adapt. That's the reason why, if you're wondering, they do a patch before Worlds every year now as like the Worlds patch, so teams actually have
Yeah.
like time to practice it, so they don't
Yeah.
fuck them over with Juggernaut patch like in 2015. It's funny because one of our first Get in My Rants episodes was on the Juggernaut patch back in season 5. So back in the day, me, Cannon, and those boys. Yeah. Check it out.
the true league gods.
Yeah, back when we were silver and we knew what we were talking about. Especially Cannon. He was real analyst. Analyst.
GK on the show to talk about TSM Faker.
No, please, no. Okay. So, yeah. So you were saying about the LPL teams, though. I agree. The region looks very strong, but I don't want to overhype the region because, I do think like, for me again, it's not so easy to say like a team is this power level versus this power level. I think any team still has some mild chance of doing so. Because
Sure.
the whole fantasy of the Korean team being like X much better than the other teams has kind of dropped after I would say even 2017 that started decreasing a bit after some more Western teams were showing like good performances, and then especially in 2018 when the Korean teams were faltering. So it showed us that it's not so clearly like power level based.
I'm
So
just excited to see what happens this year. I just
Okay.
want to see. I just want to hope for
yeah,
NA. I want to see them show up.
I think that'll more so be at Worlds though.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean like I need MSI. I need Team Liquid to like perform
Mhm.
for me to have hope
Yeah.
that they can make it to like quarters or semis.
Okay, well let's move on to G2 then. We already covered TLG2, and then it's G2 IG and G2 SKT. Okay, now the EU. All right, here's where I gotta criticize EU a bit. I think they're overhyping G2 a bit when they say like G2.
G2 is the best team at MSI.
Yeah, I think that's a bit overstated. Listen, I can so I've seen like arguments though where it's like people have given some things like, oh, I think G2 like is better than SKT, and it's like, okay, I think these are some reasonable arguments, you know, like they've made reasonable arguments. But after like the whole like promiscu thing, I have a really hard time believing that after like they're pretty much gonna have to play promiscu. I think G2 is very strong. I also like their players. I'm not a huge fan of EU, but I like G2. And yeah, I mean, like, it's just they kind of have promiscu right now, which really gimps their bot lane. And if your bot lane gets gimped, that means SKT. So we'll go with the SKT matchup first. I think that Faker is not stupid enough to get rolled over, and neither is Clid. I think their synergy is very good, even if Caps and Yankos are good. I think SKT's bot lane is too stable to get rolled over by Perks and promiscu. I also want to say that people say, like, oh, SKT is going to get caught off guard if G2 does something crazy. Dude, Griffin pulled out Talia Pantheon. I don't think SKT is going to get caught off guard. That's a kill lane. Like, I really don't think that it's going to be that simple. I think the shining beacon of this matchup is Wonder, which is why I have a lot of hope to see Wonder actually perform well, because I think against SKT, he can actually expose Khan if Khan plays poorly. So that's where I like see that matchup.
I just want to see Caps versus Rookie again, so I can watch Caps int on Aurelia. That was so funny.
We'll go with SKT first. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't seen Caps play Faker before, except for that random solo queue thing like years ago when Caps like trash talked him and then Faker flashed on him and solo killed him. That was hilarious. Have you ever seen that, Will?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. So Caps was playing Zed, and this was like 5 years ago, and Caps.
This was 2014 Worlds, I think.
Yeah, Caps types to Faker in chat like ja ja ja, random steals my Riven, and then Faker like Qs onto him, and he W's back, and then he says wrecked in all chat, and then Faker flashes on him and just insta kills him with like a fucking Riven combo with the shy combo actually I think, and that clip now people are memeing it, but yeah, it is so funny. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see what happens. I mean, Caps. This is Caps' chance to prove himself, though. Like, if he manages to play well against Faker, he proves himself as like a very good mid laner. I think.
Maybe Team Liquid beats SKT because of the sexual tension between Faker and Doublelift.
Faker said he wasn't gonna go on a date with Doublelift, though. He said in an interview that
he's
like,
just
I
being
didn't mean like a date.
What's the Japanese word that you guys always
Tsundere?
the canon uses? Yeah, he's just
The
being
canon always uses.
Yeah.
All right, G2 versus IG.
I think I'm gonna go with IG favored.
IG.
I think the problem is recent history. These teams clashed, and I think IG is stronger.
Yeah, even with G2 powering up, I think IG is also really strong as well.
The
And
Shy versus Wonder.
I actually think Wonder is a lot better than what he was at Worlds last year.
Yeah, but not Shy.
I don't think he's shy level, but I do think he's better than I'd want to see him perform.
I don't think he'll int as hard.
The problem I see is rookie Caps. We already saw this matchup before. It's gonna happen again.
Caps got fucking stomped.
And then IG's bot lane has improved, and I think they're gonna be pretty decent into Perks and promiscu. I don't think they're gonna be as smart as Teddy and Mate if they pull something weird, but
I think they'll bully them harder. If that
right.
makes
I
sense.
also think they're gonna try to bully them much harder, which I could see working well with Ning is the thing. So yeah. I mean, and this is also Yankos' time to shine, because if his lanes don't have priority, we get to see what Yankos does as a jungler.
Yeah, I do think they'll very IG sided.
All right. Well, then that makes the final matchup IG versus SKT. In best of one, of course. We're talking about best of one.
I think
I'd love to see that in the final.
It's probably going to be the final, but I think 55-45 SKT. 55-45 SKT. I think if Khan on a good day can stand up to Shy, and I think Faker rookie is going to be really interesting, but I think I think I guess in my opinion, I think Clid is better than Ning. And I think Teddy Mata can edge out slightly because I think Balon and Jackalov are more willing to fight you than other bot lanes are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Teddy and Mata can be able to withstand it or even beat them in their own game. So I'm gonna edge it out slightly towards SKT.
All aboard the Korean hype. No, I'm not Monty. All right. I, fuck, dude. I've been pondering this question for so long, and I really have no
Does
way
it
to
keep
judge
you up
it.
at night?
Yeah, it does. I have no way to judge it because the problem here is that like I haven't seen any of SKT. Okay, so Clid was in LPL last year, and he was part of JDG last year, which they actually did
Yeah.
pretty well. And obviously they played against LPL teams, so I mean he's he's a good player obviously. And then same thing with Faker, same thing with Mata. Teddy hasn't gone international yet, but we've seen his performance in LCK. Like they're all really good players, but I haven't like seen how they match up like into other regions. Even though like yes, you could argue that they're probably better players. It's really hard to like kind of make those statements against other regions. I don't know. Like Mata played against Mata does have some experience against IG though. I will say that. Mata has played against him last year on KT. Deft, he also played with the strong AD carry, a decent mid laner, a good jungler, like I think yeah, I don't know. I think that SKT pretty much has to take smart fights into IG because IG likes to play fights, and I think SKT's players are strong enough mechanically to like not get bodied. But given Khan's recent performance and how good the Shy is, 55-45 IG.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's solid logic.
I do think that the road for me is pretty clear for SKT in terms of like if you look at IG's games, like I said, a lot of people always criticize them for picking fights that I mean, we as analysts, like in hindsight, will say is like, oh, they're probably gonna lose. But in the game, IG, I don't think IG is thinking to themselves, oh, we're gonna lose this fight, but let's fight anyways. I think they're thinking like, oh, we can win this fight. Let's fight. Let's fight. Let's fight, and they win. But like post analysis, we say, oh, I think they only won because of mechanics here.
Yeah.
If SKT like looks into that and really tries to figure out, hey, like how does IG get priority? How are they like when are they picking fights here? Like how do we leverage bot lane? Blah blah blah. Then that's the route to take. But if IG is also smart and thinks like, hey, let's just have Ning camp topside and counter gank Clid when he tries to help Khan, and then let's have the Shy body Khan. Then I think like that's also a route to victory for IG. And one of them is more plausible, and I think the IG one's more plausible because that's already in line with like how I'm pretty sure they want to go toward the games. Yeah.
And how IG usually plays anyway.
Yeah. All right. What do you? Any other thoughts on that though?
Nope.
All right. Well. Anyways, so that's pretty much like our predictions for group stage. Will, was there other stuff you want to talk about like recently? Because like we haven't had an episode in a while, but there's been stuff on your mind, right?
Oh wait, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael. You can go first. I don't care.
One thing I want to really talk about is the scuttle changes that came in last match.
Shoot.
Tank
like
jugglers. Tank
I like
jugglers
it.
are rising up. Adapt or die, bitch.
I don't like it.
Play tank jugglers and still win.
So many unviable champions, man.
No, there aren't. You just be good at jungle kiting and you can play any jungler. Tanks just make your
It
life
slows
easier.
the clear because you rely on the scuttle for some champions.
But
to
you
regain
can also,
mana and health.
but you can have alternate paths now.
Shh.
You
That's
know, you
not
can
how-
adapt.
That's not how Camille players do it.
Well, Camille's designed to be a top laner. She's an unhealthy jungler because she just gains at level 2
Yes.
and with an almost unavoidable gank. Like we're seeing the rise like Sejuani, and we still have Hecarim in the meta. Like you still play your bruisers.
I fucking hate
You have Hecarim, J4, Rek'Sai are still really strong. You can still play your carries like Kindred and Evelyn. And I think as much I do dislike the scuttle change. I don't like how the emphasis is on scuttle, but I think it's healthier for the game overall. What I'd like to see Riot to do eventually is like nerf scuttle XP, but buff base camp XP. So that way you can have different styles of farming junglers, and that way you can also reward counter jungling. But you have like the fallback to scuttles at the neutral camps to try and climb your way back.
I would like Riot to implement a thing where like if the jungler ganks you and they're not level 3 yet, then they get hit with 300 true damage. They just get ignited by a level 18 ignite.
What if they walk into lane to absorb XP to hit level 3, and then they use their.
Oh, too bad. They were level 2 and they get hit by a level 18 ignite. That's what they get for fucking touching my lane before they hit level 3.
What, you don't like it when Xin shows up your lane with red buff and
I
level 2
love
ganks
having
you?
to play around junglers that can gank me at level 2 in mid lane. It's really fun.
Man. Everyone complains about junglers, but no one knows how to play around junglers. I think it's the biggest.
No,
thing
no,
ever.
no, no. It's not that. It's when your jungler doesn't invade them, and when you absorb gank pressure, and then you feel like, okay, well they just got free gank pressure, and now it's like tragic because like I absorbed the gank pressure, but nothing happened. That's the real
Jungle
tragedy.
difference.
Yeah, I mean
Jungle
that's the
difference
real
somehow.
tragedy. No, like I've had really good junglers before though, and that's what I mean. It's like when I have really good junglers and we take priority, like today I played a game as Zed with we had a no, yesterday I played a game as Talon and we had a Kindred. As Talon, I shove in the wave, and then Kindred's invading Karthus. We would just gank together on both sides of the map, and like we had really great synergy. So that's what I mean. It's like I've had really good junglers that play around priority, but I've also had really bad junglers too. So
Yeah, I
It's
know you
just-
play with Will.
it is what it is, you know. Will, was there something you wanted to talk about?
Not really.
There was stuff like a
it-
few weeks ago you told me.
Yeah, it's more ranty. I don't feel like ranting.
No, 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 come on.
It's time to get in his rants, dude.
It's kind of
I just don't like the whole. Like all the news came out with like how Optic might sell the spot and how Dignitas is coming back.
Oh,
after
okay.
taking
Immortals
spot.
roster. Will, what is the Immortals roster that's hitting up
Oh,
Summoner's Rift in
God tier,
2019? 2020, actually. My bad. 2020.
Easy money, dude. We're getting TSM Johnson in 2 years. Getting Vulcan. We're keeping Crown because he's good. Get Dokla out of my game. Dardock can stay.
The Shy.
No, I want Keen. I want Keen from a Freak of Freaks.
Smeb.
dude.
You're getting Smeb, you know.
I
it.
think
But
a freak-
no. But have you heard about this top laner? I just got released
Zion
by
Spartan.
Zion Spartan. Got released
I
by
was gonna
Steam.
make the Zion Spartan meme, but he has to be Zion Spartan. He can't go by Darshan anymore.
Okay,
What about-
actual
I
question.
want to see what he does though, because he's the president of the Players Union, and he's no longer a player.
Do you think
So I wonder if he steps down or what happens.
What do you guys think if Smeb came to NA?
I'd take him on Immortals for the first season.
I
I
think he'll do it someday. A really good top laner on a subpar team that doesn't deserve him.
Yeah.
But I was gonna rant about how bad like the franchising thing. Like franchising's good and all, but like it pissed me off when I heard that Clutch is selling their spot. Like I think I don't
Their
mind
whole
that they're getting
branding
rid
was
of
the
their
Texas thing. This kills their brand. This literally kills the whole
like I don't care that they're getting rid of their spot. That's not the issue. The issue is that the news comes out now, and then now Summer Split, you're not gonna have any Clutch fans. Like
Yeah.
no one's gonna care about Clutch games. No one's gonna care about Optic games because all their team's gone.
Good thing you didn't buy an
Well-
Optic jersey.
Yeah, thank God. But like no one's gonna like how are you supposed to care about these teams? How are you supposed to care about their games this split? Like it's just so lame. And like everyone knew like why'd they kick out Dignitas and Immortals anyways? We all knew like Dignitas and Immortals were like two of your best teams, and then in franchising, when the first franchising hit, everyone was super pissed when they saw like neither of those teams were on there, and now they're gonna come back anyways because those other teams weren't as dedicated as ones.
They took
like-
out Immortals initially because they invested more into Overwatch. And
Yeah,
right
now look what happened.
organization that they can sustain it.
And then they got rid of
Overwatch
Dignitas,
sucks.
and now Dignitas is gonna come back. Like, come on, dude. Like,
Well, Dignitas also got influence of new investors because they now have more sports teams.
well, yeah, I just think it's such a problem with like the original franchising was such a like they should have respected like some of the teams that had franchises already, and now they're basically coming back. But I just think the Clutch thing's dumb because I don't think anyone's gonna care about Clutch this year, and I think they should have waited to break that news unless it got leaked, but it didn't get leaked. It was like pretty like open.
Are you guys excited about Rift Rivals?
I am. I think it's gonna be really hype. I think.
I like it because there's no bad like NA team showing up. Like,
Yeah, we don't have
that.
Echo Fox and 100 Thieves this time.
Echo Fox was the best performer last time. The problem was 100 Thieves playing Brandini.
Brandini instead of
Levi.
Sunday.
Like, yeah, it just felt like a joke. I feel like no one cared.
Yeah.
How Hooney has fallen.
I think they hype it up. Like, I'd be more interested if like there's some big like EU NA banter that goes on. Like,
if EU doesn't make it out of groups at MSI type banter.
I hope G2 and Liquid somehow match up at MSI, and then like there's some good like shit.
3-0 TL. TL 3-0.
No. But I
GG.
don't care who wins between the two. I want there to be some hype going into Rift
All right,
Rivals.
what do
Like,
you guys?
I want some people to start
Okay.
calling people out.
So LPL Rift Rivals though, or I mean, sorry, Eastern Rift Rivals is so the
Yeah.
teams that are going FPX, TOP, JDG, and IG versus Kingzone, SKT, Griffin, and Damwon.
Bro, you know Kingzone's gonna pop off.
They lost to SKT.
Shh.
Yeah.
Where's your
It was
Kingzone
unlucky.
jersey?
I would get one.
You gotta get. Wait, Will. You gotta get one of these.
Unless
like,
Def leaves
jerseys.
the team, then there's no point in me having it.
That's true, but I don't think Deft will leave the team.
No, they did too well and
Yeah.
above expectations.
Well, I don't think he's gonna leave the team. I'm hoping he I would have to get a player I know that's not gonna leave the franchise for like a couple years at least.
Yeah,
And I think one bad split. I think
they did well this split though. Like,
no. I'm saying like in the future.
yeah, I
They
mean,
got
I,
this
I think they did well this split. Like,
Maybe
look
they
at-
do bad next spring.
like,
and
KT
Def's just
got
like,
put
I'm
into
done.
relegations. Dude.
KT would.
Dude, I thought KT would be the fourth best team this year. I thought KT would be the fourth best with Smeb and VDD.
Oh yeah, I remember your rankings.
Yeah, I legit thought KT would be the fourth best team, and then
VDD. I only like Yasuo.
it turns out they were dog shit. Ugh, tragic, absolute tragedy. It's actually sad.
Well,
All right, well, I mean that's pretty much everything. Nothing else you guys want to say, huh?
Nope, nothing else.
Okay, well it's been /f episodes 11. Where can the people find you guys?
You can find me on my stream, twitch.tv/lawsofphysix, and on Twitter at lphysics.
Will?
Twitch.tv/Skieco, Twitter.com/Skieco_.
Tweet at Michael, so tell him to play Yu-Gi-Oh, because it'd be pretty fun.
No, I'm not playing Yu-Gi-Oh.
Everyone call him Kaito.
You said
That's hilarious.
yuck.
Yuck.
No, dude. Hey, man, you said if I play Siege with you, you'll play Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, but we're playing Siege because
Yeah,
you have to.
yeah.
Cut the podcast and then talk about
Okay. This is Jack signing out.